It's been a while. This thing is rapid, man. What's Mark on about? Mark cannot say how much I love this car. It really excites me. And I feel like I don't drive it enough on the channel. I do a lot of driving in this car, but I just don't drive it on the channel. Okay, let's be a bit calm down. Be a bit more conservative. So, as mentioned, we are upgrading the brake system, and we're doing this with the Pinnacle Motorsport brake duct kit. So, something that I have heard on quite a few channels and from a lot of, I don't know, semi-professional racing drivers is that cooling is your friend. And if we're talking about braking, brake pads, or a good quality brake pad anyway, isn't cheap. So what Pinnacle do is that they do a brake duct kit that allows air to come through this little channel just through here, out the top, through this pipe, and it hits the back of the disc. And obviously if the disc is going to stay cool, that's going to allow your brake pad to go cool. And I actually heard recently from Misha, who does quite a lot of Nürburgring laps to say, he said he got double the life out of, I think it was an RS29 when he ran a brake cooling kit. So if that's the case, you're obviously going to be quids in. I don't really know if that means quids, but yeah, we're going to get onto the fitting. And obviously with this not being a DIY channel, I'm going to show you some beautiful B-roll and kind of break it down where I can. But yeah, disclaimer, if your car breaks, don't blame me. Okay, so we have fit the ducting kit. You can see we used a long spacer here. We've got the second from big spacer just behind there, and then there's a small one just in here. Now, something to note, in the kit you get two hose clamps, one for this side and then one for the other side, but I've actually used the second one just down there because I was running into issues with pulling out the wire. I don't have the correct tools, and in my opinion anyway, I'd probably run another hose clamp if you can get the right size, but obviously don't do it pinch tight because obviously Jamie knows what he's doing. He supplied the parts, it's bang on, but I think it's probably how I fitted it or how I've cut this hose, because this hose does come in one long piece. But other than that, I've gone through my fair few of cable ties, and now we're running some nice red ones. I'm probably going to change them out, or actually I should change them out because they're not obviously heavy duty, but you can see what's going to happen here. I'm going to be driving along, air's going to come through here underneath the car as it passes. It's going to come up this hose and then it's going to hit the back of the disc, meaning it's going to cool it down. And if you've got a cool disc, then obviously you'll have cooler pads and you should be getting more life out of them. So yeah, okay, so I cannot stress enough, do not over tighten that clamp that goes down to the scoop. Moving on, we also have this from Williams Performance, a stud kit. So those of you that do a lot of track days and you're always swapping out your brake pads or your brake discs, if you go for it, you probably want a set of these. So currently the wheels are held in with studs, but ideally what you would have is a set of studs that allow you to just pop the wheel on, and it just makes the job a whole lot easier. Not really much of an upgrade, but something that definitely really helps. Now, before I forget, I've got to say a huge shout out to Bimatech. They've kindly sent me an MMI Prime box and a DIY Essentials kit. What it essentially means is that I can now fit CarPlay to my car. With this being a 2014 model, CarPlay or Android Auto isn't available on this car unless I upgraded the iDrive controller, the head unit, which is behind here, and the screen. Then I could have CarPlay. That is quite a pricey upgrade for a car that is meant to be a cheap and form. We're trying to kind of suit that with the builds and the budget that we're doing. This is at an affordable price point. Along with this, which you guys can get for free, I'm going to put a link in the description which you're going to check out. But what happens essentially is we remove the iDrive, we fit the MMI box, and then we have CarPlay, and we can also have screen mirroring. So when you are parked up, always be parked up, you could essentially be watching YouTube, mirroring your screen, blah 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 blah. It really is a good piece of kit. I was tempted to go down the route of getting everything changed out, but I think the prices for that would be around the 1,200 upwards mark. And I thought for the price of this, which is roughly around 700 USD dollars, it's definitely worthwhile. that's how it looks installed. To be brutally honest with you, I thought it was going to be a lot harder than it was to install. Once you do purchase the MMI box, Bimatech also send you a PDF instruction guide to make sure you don't get stuck. But to be honest with you, if you can brush your teeth without looking, you can definitely fit this. But yeah, it's an absolute no-brainer. I'm going to have a link in the description to the product as mentioned. But yeah, big shout out to Bimatech. Android Auto, CarPlay, it's there. Get in touch, get it done. Okay, so that has been done, and that will save you so much time when taking off and putting on your wheels, changing out your pads and your discs. Trust me, daddy. The next thing we're doing, as we've got a track day coming up soon, is swapping out these. So we've got EBC Blue in there, which are my daily pad, and they're really great. I have used them at Snetterton on track, and they did okay. Bearing in mind it was a wet day, so I probably didn't go as fast as I probably wanted to. However, these are going to be night and day. They are for track use only, so bear that in mind. They probably will be noisy if you do decide to drive your car to the track, even though it says track use. I'm literally going to fit them for the video and then take them out, obviously. Hey, it's been a while. This thing is rapid, man. What's Mark on about? Mark's got plans for this, obviously. So the installs have gone down very, very well. I cannot say how good it is. Those of you that fit parts or do a bit of DIY would know how good it is when things just go to plan, and that's definitely what has happened today. So, or a couple of days ago rather, because I obviously ain't done it today. Starting off, straight off the bat, let me just give you a breakdown and all the information necessary. The brake cooling. So, the brake cooling is obviously Pinnacle Motorsports, supplied by Williams Performance. That is, again, like I said, it's going to bring down temps. It's going to allow you to get more out of your pads and your discs. If they're not going to run hot, then they're not going to wear as easy. And everybody knows keeping the car cool is going to make it better, and longevity, like pads and disc wise, is always going to be better. Something to note, as mentioned, is that the part that connects the hose to where the hose connects to the bottom scoop, it is recommended to use a cable tie, because in the past people have used hose clamps like I have, and where it is a bit of plastic, people have done it a bit too tight, and that has caused it to, I don't know, snap where it is a bit of 3D plastic. So you've got to be very careful. I personally went down the hose clamp, so I just wasn't getting any joy with the cable ties. So yeah, it works. I turned the steering wheel left and right, full lock, nothing. Full lock the other way, nothing. So it's a big thumbs up. Again, you can find that down at Williams Performance. So that means I can send the car and not worry about brake fade. Especially with the fact that this car is going to see a bit of track time, I want to make sure that I'm not going to get brake fade, especially if I'm going to be sending it, and especially when this car's going to have a few more ponies coming very soon. Now, moving on to the second thing, and the second thing is something to really be aware of, and that is the brake stud conversion. So like I said, if you are doing brake pad changes, or you just like your car to look quite race car, the stud conversion is a no-brainer. Also, something that I have noticed, and something that I'm not guilty of in the past, but a friend of mine is, when you are putting your wheels back onto your car, you put it onto the hub, and then you line up the bolts. If you don't line those bolts up properly, and you just decide to just gun them in or just turn them in, you will cross-thread your hub, and that's a really expensive thing to replace. So with that in mind, I thought the stud conversion works really well for that reason, and the fact that I'm changing the wheels out often. Brake pads, it's obviously going from track pads to the road pads, so I thought it's an absolute no-brainer, and that obviously reduces the chance of cross-threading, because if you do cross-thread one of those studs, you can just replace a single stud, as opposed to having to replace your entire hub. And nobody likes playing around with hub, do they? Or hubs, should I say. This thing just revs out for ages. Wow, wow, wow. Bradley Wiggins and the crew are out today. Bloody hell, lads. Bloody hell. While you're out there, just listen to this. Is it me or is it getting hot in here? Boy, it's definitely a warm day. So, as I was saying, stud conversion is an absolute no-brainer. Something to note again is there are two types or 2 lengths available. You've got the 75 and the 82, I want to say. 75, I think you can run up to a 10mm spacer, and a 82 allows you to run anything up to, I believe, a 15mm spacer. But again, links down below in the description. The reason why I've actually removed my spacers, I'm not going to give too much away, but the reason why I've removed my spacers, I don't know if you would have noticed from some of the shots, is if I run these spacers, then every time I take off the wheel, I'm going to have to be playing around. So in case I haven't overlaid any shots, I'm no longer running my 12 and 15mm spacers, because the stud conversion comes in 2 lengths. You've got 75 and I believe 82. If I was to run a 75, I can run up to a 10mm spacer, and if I was to run an 82mm stud, then I can run up to a 15. And if I was to run an 82mm stud, it just pokes out too much. It gives you kind of Mad Max vibe. So I love this road, man. Yeah, so I'm getting very warm. I don't know what's going on, boss. Rah, what am I making, bruv? Jesus Christ. Percy Ingle in here. What the? So as I was saying, if I was to run the 82, meaning I can run my spacer setup, it will kind of give me Mad Max vibes, and I don't really like the fact or the way they stick out too much. So the spacers have come out. They're no longer going to be on the car, and especially because we probably will be upgrading the wheels very shortly, so stay tuned for that. And if I was to upgrade my wheels, I would purposely make sure the ET I get, or the offset I get rather, is going to allow me to not have to run a spacer, because they're great for stance and for looks. But my thing is, if I'm going to run a track wheel, I don't know, 60% of the year, do I really want to play around with adding spacers and not adding spacers? And if I had to run a spacer with the 75, I'll just run a 10mm with my stock wheels when it comes to, I don't know, winter times. But yeah, more to come on those wheels. And last but not least, to complete the breaking a package, and before I forget, nearly forgot, Mark would have just like strangled me. Stay tuned, Williams Performance are coming up with a nice prototype design. Those of you that are still M-Lite owners, you can upgrade your disc or your braking package or your braking setup to an M car. So you could have an M140 and run a full M4, M3, M2 disc. That's the 380 disc, not the 370 disc. We're running a 380 disc on an M-Lite, because Mark and I think, is it Badger? I don't know. All I know is he's got a slow M2. So him and Mark are coming up with a design, and they are going to be allowing everybody to run an M4, M3, M2 caliper with the 380mm discs. Oh man, the camber plates. Oh man, cannot say how much I love this car. It really excites me, and I feel like I don't drive it enough on the channel. I do a lot of driving in this car, but I just don't drive it on the channel. Okay, let's be a bit calm down, be a bit more conservative. Easy now. So as I was saying, that is to come. Now, brake pads wise, RPX, EBC. Now there's loads of horse rubbish people talk about with EBC. I ran the blue stuff, I had great joy of them. They're great pads. So I think I will probably say that I might have to retract my words slightly, is I wouldn't recommend running them on track if you can, simply because they do very well on a wet day where you're not going to be going too fast, but I think the wear rate isn't very good on track. The RPX are a track pad, that's why it says track use only, but the blue stuff are great. And if you're somebody that can't, do it yourself in terms of changing the brake pads out yourself, then I definitely recommend going for the blues, because you can just drive to the track on them and then just go home on the same pad. However, where I do have access to a lift, and I also can do it myself at home, I just prefer swapping out, so I am going to be continuing with the RPX. Now the RPX, you don't really bed them in, because there's no bedding in procedure, because they're not a road pad. But what I would suggest is, before you go hammering it on a track day, is do a few, strong brake presses, brake really hard, and then gradually go from 80 to 20, 70, like you would on the road, but do it on a track, simply because I think the bike's going to be more aggressive. If you were to do it on the road, you probably could end up not brake, you don't need to wear a hands device when you're doing it, but it's more a case of the people behind you, and it's a very aggressive track pad. And I will say, not that obviously I've got them in my car now, because again, they are not a road pad, is I imagine that they stop you really hard, to a point where my head is actually hurting from how instant the braking is. Oh my God. Yeah, the RPX are definitely recommended. And if I was running the RPX and I just decided to press on the brake now, quick check of the mirror, let me make sure the road's at least level, because it is quite bumpy. Boy, and that pedal's just right up there. And I know with new pads it's always going to be stiffer, but boy. So, to conclude, is this the package I highly recommend? Yes. More importantly than anything, definitely the cooling. The cooling's what's going to allow you to obviously save more money. And if you have issues like I did with my brake nipples on the nipples on the caliper, it's probably down to heat as well. So having a cooler braking area is going to probably save your car, save your brake fluid, and give you longevity and more fun at the racetrack. So yes guys, there you have it. The install has been completed. If you're interested in any of the parts, check out the links in the description. If you have found this video helpful, please smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.